for a long time, they could have and should have added Finex. I can't even remember when the fucking time period window was, but they could have, they should have, and they were just being like butthurt little retards about it.
Hey, Flipper, cut it out, all right?
Sam, is it you?
Yeah, it is. Listen, you see exactly what happened. We add this exchange back to our index 2 weeks later. 2 weeks, we have to delist it. We've had to delist the exchange, I think, 3 or 4 times over our history due to pricing issues, due to incorrect trade feeds. They've changed their scheme out from under us. I think 3 separate flat crashes, and now this. So I understand that a lot of people are looking at the index and making suggestions about how it can be better. They want it to be better. They feel that if they were in our position, they would somehow make it better. But
look, let me just come in for a second, because they're great reasons, but every other index out there seems to use it just fine. So,
what other exchanges mark their futures to an external index?
Well, I'm talking about other indexes, like, there's fucking loads of them out there, and they use Finex just fine, so...
Right, but there's a difference between an index that you use just to get an idea of what the Bitcoin price is, and an index that you use to mark highly leveraged futures to. There are completely different requirements, there are different uptime requirements, there are different requirements in terms of the stability of that index. Believe me, we've tried many different providers. We've tried TradeBlock, we tried Keiko. Now we've been running our own, and I agree that we've had issues with it due to the stability of the underlying exchanges, but the requirements are completely different between something like a Winkdex and what we run.
You consider Kraken?
We're considering it, yeah. At this point, we're looking around to try to determine what the most stable price feeds are going to be in the future.
I thought you could do, what about Kraken Euro, and just, could you do like Kraken Euro and something else, and just kind of like normalize it to one pair, to get something?
It's possible. One thing that we sort of run into with the creation of this index is that it's important for us to keep the index generation simple. We want people to be able to regenerate the price easily on their own. And so if we do something like a Forex conversion from Kraken Euro, that's going to add an element of complexity to the index that's going to be difficult for hedgers and market makers to recreate. Not to mention, actually, we have significant concerns about Kraken stability as well, given some of the technical issues that they've had over the last couple of months.
But yeah, I do think, I do appreciate all those extra concerns that come into that pricing index. Yeah, absolutely. But in that aside, the other thing I was talking about, I know before you come on, maybe you just heard me ranting, but yeah, I never received any notification.
Yeah, I understand that. So basically, we were talking internally, watching the OKCoin premium, and we had to make a bit of a snap decision to delist that, and we did the rollover, adding GDAX and then removing it. And I made announcements through all of our usual feeds, so Twitter, the blog, the site announcement, the troll box. One issue with the site announcements is that they're not updating automatically via the WebSocket. I'm actually working on that code right now because I understand your frustration with this. Just because it should automatically be showing up there, and right now it's not.
Yeah, that's it. And normally 9 times out of 10 I would have seen it. It was just the worst case scenario because I saw a huge discount and just thought, well, fuck, it's a discount. Fuck it, buy that shit. And then of course it carried on dumping. I was like, oh, what the fuck? And I just didn't have it in the notification, so it was kind of like extra pain. But
yeah, understood. But like I said, we made use of every channel that was available to us at the time. And, I understand that you're frustrated by it, but also, saying that you don't check your email, you don't check the tweets, you don't check your chat and all that. That's how we communicate. And if you want to see these things, you have to check them.
You're absolutely right. You did notify in every other place. It just happened at that time I was on that other one. It's just the way it is, isn't it? So.
No, sometimes it's just the way it is.
But yeah, quarterly's liquidity shit still. But nobody's trading it, are they?
I thought for a second we could have a positive discussion.
No, Sam is always positive. I love talking to you. It's great. I think it's so good that you've come on here and explained, re-emphasized the difficulties in the index and the different requirements for it. That's great. And talking about that it should be on the website. That's great. And that you did reach, everything's good. So yeah, I think it's great. But yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say about that quarterly liquidity, but nobody's trading it. But to be honest, maybe nobody needs to, because the perpetual is just such a good thing. It tracks that index perfectly. The system is great.
Yeah, quarterlies. Right now, I agree. Liquidity is lower than it has been historically. At other points in history, it's actually been doing really, really well. So we certainly can't enlist an active contract, nor would we. Although we're always on the prowl for more market makers and more people who are looking to provide liquidity on those types of contracts. Now that the CNY, the overall CNY landscape is looking so unhealthy at this point, there is definitely an opportunity there to get some of those market makers over to the listing series.
Sam, that was really not cool, the way that you guys just flash changed the index like that after announcing that you were going to change it at a specified time way away from now.
Okay, Jeff, wait, save it, because we've just been through it pretty well. I mean, you can check it on the live stream, but TLDR is they did reach out on every available channel, and WebSocket update code for notifications is incoming.
I've got a different question. So, you're still using Bitfinex's lending rates for the perpetual swap fair basis, right?
Correct. So we've been hearing you all on that one. Basically, where we're at on that is we're deciding. Basically, there's no other liquid lending market for BTC-USD. So what we're looking at is whether or not we can continue to run those just solely off of premium, or if we're going to use something like a monthly average lending rate to mix into that calculation. I will say that given the way that the calculation actually operates in practice, the lending rate is a very small component of what decides the funding rate. So we are not particularly concerned over if it does move distinctly out of band. We'll be taking action on that. But we would rather be preventative on it than, proactive rather than reactive. We've been pretty reactive this week. Not that there was anything else we could do, but believe me, I don't like the stress any more than you do.
Yeah, and because it just seems inconsistent to take it out as a component, but keep the lending rate aspects. But it's interesting that it actually ends up paying a smaller share in the fair basis than the actual premium discount part. And I guess, okay, the other thing that I wanted to, I've said this a couple other places, but in general about the index construction, maybe it shouldn't be so ad hoc. And maybe you should lay out a methodology nice and open that tells exactly what qualifies as including components and what qualifies to exclude, just so everybody is kind of with you in terms of the philosophies you're using to make these decisions.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would like to define more clear criteria for what gets somebody removed or added. We're kind of in uncharted territory here right now with the number of exchanges that are kind of falling into the unusable side for the index. But yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment.
And how much, I don't know if you're able to answer this, but how much company funds were used to plug the GDEX refund hole?
Oh, with GDEX? Yeah, so some of the in short, it was about 55,000.
Okay, yeah. So is that the most you've had to shell out yet for any kind of mistake related to data feeds and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's the most that we've given out for anything. And this time, actually, depending on your point of view, it wasn't even our fault. The index worked exactly as specified, but we understood that customers would be angry, and probably rightfully so, if we let them eat the loss on that. We should have had a bit of price protection built into that portion of the index, and we didn't. We just assumed that they would be sending us good prices all the time, and that's obviously not an incentive we can make. We'll be making an announcement tonight, U.S. time, the morning Hong Kong time, about some of the new protections that we've built into the index to deal with exchanges that are responding but delivering bad prices. And that gets complicated depending on the number of constituents in the index. And since we can't guarantee that we'll always have, say, more than 3 or 4 constituents in an index in the current landscape, we've had to create rules for indices that have 3 or more constituents, indices that have 2 constituents, and an index that has 1 constituent, and define rules for discounting bad prices in all those circumstances. And that's contributed to some of the delay in our later announcements as we've been working out the rules for that.
Okay, and
There's-
so the 55,000, was that not including the insurance? Because did you take some of it from insurance fund, or was it?
Right, that's not including what those liquidations contributed to insurance. The overall charge was pretty close to 100,000.
Okay, and do you have any kind of, I don't know if it's in documentation of what exactly leads you to make these refunds? Because like you said, you seem to think it's at least that wasn't really necessarily your fault, because that was actually a trade that happened on one of the components, and as such the index reacted and behaved as it should. So what is it that you're basing these decisions on?
Yeah, so in general, our position is that we don't refund when the system works as intended. So when it works as documented, if there's not a bug on our end, we generally won't. However, if it's something like that where we just feel that despite it being documented properly, it's just not the way that it should have worked, we'll do it anyway. And that is just a judgment call at that point.
Okay, fair enough. Go ahead, give your philosophy. I was cutting you off before. Go ahead.
So I think that there's a bigger issue here, which is that you guys are equally weighting highly illiquid exchanges, and just small dumps on these exchanges are massively affecting the price. Whereas then you take out like the more liquid exchanges that have much higher volume.
That's actually not the case right now. Look at the BTC-USD volume among all these exchanges. Right now, Finex, Stamp, GDAX, Gemini, BTC are all about 5,500, 6,500 Bitcoin over the last 24 hours.
Sam, what about BTC?
That's on the list. I actually agree with your sentiment that they've been kind of a solid exchange with not a lot of problems over the years. However, they are currently doing I believe it's a 3% wire transfer fee due to some issues at one of their banks. That affects the price, of course. That creates a different Bitcoin price at BTC than on other exchanges where deposits and withdrawals can move more freely. So right now, that discounts it from being usable in our index. It will not always be the case, and if that opens up, then we'll consider it more seriously.
Yeah, because
What about Kraken?
Same with Kraken. I discussed it a little bit earlier. We have some technical concerns with them, and we're not particularly excited about the prospect of introducing the Forex component to the index. Right now, their USD market is trading about, last I checked, about 1,400 Bitcoin a day. That's generally not enough for us to want to include it. However, we had OK Coin International for quite a while, and that turned out to trade pretty low volume-wise. So I can understand the argument there. In general, I would like to get a lot more constituents into the index to balance some of those issues out. We're considering a lot of potential structures for it.
Mic check 1 2 3.
Hey,
No, that shit don't work.
Crypto Keeper.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, howdy. But
Hey.
Sam, one more thing. I just wanted to ask, yeah, I fucking forgot now because Crypto Keeper's come online.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Alright.
If you volume weight the index, it doesn't matter if they're even over the last 24 hours or not. It just always, captures the Bitcoin trading in the world.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that point. Basically, when we moved from TradeBlocks XBX over to Kaiko and eventually our own internal index, our main goal was delivering an index that was extremely easy to reproduce, and nothing's easier than a couple of constituent indices with equal weights, and that was for the benefit of traders and hedgers and market makers. However, now that we've gone a little farther down the rabbit hole on this and determined that some of these exchanges are not as stable as we'd like, and that the landscape is shifting more quickly than we would like, that's a viable option.
And you want to keep.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, I guess it's like, same as what Swapman was saying, is like, what's the criteria? Because some of them are, maybe, like, I don't know if it's like deposits and withdrawals, but even then, it's only affecting one currency pair. So, you know,
well, it's affecting the currency pair that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
That's the main criteria there. Yep. Our issue really has nothing to do with it being withdrawal specifically or deposit specifically. It has to do with factors at a constituent exchange affecting the price.
Oh, you didn't tell me that.
And closed deposits and withdrawals create crypto premium. That crypto premium causes our prices not to trade in line with what the price of Bitcoin should be. That's our main concern.
OKCoin.com, by the way, just hit the 1250. That premium keeps getting bigger.
I know.
Chasing
I think
Bitmex.
And
it could be weird.
Oh my god.
Sam, we feel that these banking issues are a big part of the value of Bitcoin.
I think you'd be in the minority with that. If you can buy at 1200 on all the exchanges where you can actually freely move money in and out, and it costs much more than that at other exchanges due to their own particular efficiencies, I would consider that. That's definitely a reason to disqualify those exchanges from contributing to the price. It's not the price of Bitcoin in a functioning market, it's the price among multiple functional and dysfunctional markets. And that's not what we're trying to capture.
Sam, how is this situation different from situation when PBOC banned all Chinese exchanges, and why back in the days it wasn't a market disruption event and right now it is?
That didn't affect the USD pairs. When it comes to CNY, there's two things that factor into that. One is that the CNY volume is significantly less than on the USD pairs, so there's a lot less demand for this, and when it came to all of the CNY exchanges basically being affected by the same rules at the same time, there's really nowhere to go at that point. We don't have the ability to roll over to a functioning CNY exchange because there isn't one.
In your scenario for Bitmex, it doesn't really impact you, but for exchanges that have felt the pinch, it's definitely Bitfinex, Kraken, and OKCoin, and a few other small ones, just for the fact that their bread and butter was the BTC to USD pairs.
Can you explain why you gave notice with Finex and then had the time when you removed it and you eventually removed it then, and then this time you gave a notice and then you ended up going back and removing it sooner?
Right. So what we observed in the case of OKCoin is that money had been somewhat restricted for some time, but we weren't able to get a handle on exactly how many accounts were affected and if it was all of them. Once we determined that it was all of them, we were watching premium. Basically what we had was feedback from a number of our larger traders and market makers asking us to give them a little bit more lead time on this. Basically, because of the time of day that it was happening, a lot of them were sleeping. And so we decided that we wanted to give at least 8 hours so that we could roll in one big update that involved the documentation of our new price protection features and the switchover, and that we would do that all at one time. And basically, we made that decision after watching the premium on OKCoin international, which was not significantly moving. Between the time we made that announcement and about an hour ago, hour and a half ago, the premium moved up significantly and continued to move, and we found ourselves essentially with no choice but to remove it quickly, otherwise risk erroneously liquidating large numbers of our customers.
So, Sam, what happened an hour ago? I didn't hear anything.
Oh, come on, man. We've just been talking about it. Go get clued in somewhere else.
Well, just give me the TLDR. You don't need to be an ass.
In short, basically, the restrictions at OKCoin led us to make an announcement that we were removing them from the index. However, we decided this time around, because it wasn't affecting the price significantly, that we would give more notice. It turned out that we didn't have that luxury, that we just couldn't hold on to the notice that we wanted to give because the price began to move more quickly than we anticipated.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, that's it. I want to apologize to some of you who feel like you've been outed by this or caught on the wrong side of things. We're in pretty uncharted territory here in terms of what is going on with these markets. I hope that the carnage ends soon. But in general, we are doing everything we can to keep the markets stable, to keep the markets liquid, to give you guys notice and keep you guys on top of what's going on with us. There are areas we can do better, and we're taking notes on that and going to make sure in the future that everybody's as informed as they can be, and that we're more transparent in the selection criteria that we have for making these changes. But it's difficult. You know, we're a small team. This is 24/7. Anything can happen at any moment. So hope you guys appreciate that. It's not easy to have less than an hour or half hours reaction on this sort of thing, just due to the time constraints and geographical constraints on this.
I think we all live on half-hour watch time on Bitcoin 24/7. Everybody I know does. Everybody.
Yeah, you know, and I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I really wish I could just have a 9 to 5.
Yeah. I know. Time off.
I don't
Oh my
think you
gosh.
mean that.
I get some good laughs. Like, yeah, I think you were working on Sunday or something, or Easter Day, and I'm like, I was doing some trading, and you were in the troll box doing comms. So, Sam, yeah, you put in your part. That's for sure. You do, but you got to, right?
Yeah, my wife's family will never forgive me for it either. I was with them for Easter, and the markets were going crazy, and the which one was it on Easter? Was that GDAX? Yeah. It's nonstop.
That was crazy, man. Going from like 0 to 300% profit, like instantaneously. You're like, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh, you got the good side of that?
Yeah, I shorted that.
Yeah. Well, you got lucky.
Bitcoin's pushing up.
To be honest, just to give you guys a little bit of insight into what went on our end with that, I was extremely impressed. Basically, our engine engineers, Ben, if you guys know him, and our secondary engineer, Jinming, were able to really quickly identify all the users that were affected by that and basically issue command to the trading engine to reinstate the amount of money that they would have had in their account at a specific mark price. They showed me the code for it. It was about 1.5 lines. Well, that doesn't make sense. It was 2 lines of code.
With your historical data, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. We're using KDB Plus, the Financial Time Series database for the trade engine, and honestly, from my point of view, that stuff is wizardry. It's kind of like the language queue is kind of like Perl meets brainfuck. It's total unreadable garbage, but it's unbelievably powerful, and they were able to set the ship right really quickly.
Did they learn that engine specifically for Bitmex, or did they have prior experience with it?
They had prior experience. Basically, every major bank in the world, when they're processing time series data or doing trading both domestic and internationally, they use KDB Plus. There's basically nothing like it.
Interesting. Yeah, it set up a time series database, not for financial stuff, but we're using MongoDB for time series, which isn't the best option, but it works.
So
You can't use it for financial though.
Still trying to source out, did anyone's orders get filled when it went to 6 on GDAX? Like, I haven't run into one person where they got filled.
You know, I've heard that too. I wonder if the actual fills were the order routing from Coinbase.com into GDAX.
Yeah, and mind you, I haven't heard anyone getting injured off that play either, so...
Right.
They canceled the person's order if it got filled to death.
Yeah, I mean, they were likely able to just roll all of that back anyway.
Yeah, the 15-minute chart was looking pretty nasty on GDAX there. It just wouldn't remove that wick, so everything looked flatlined.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that too. On their homepage for the next 24 hours, they had the the little ticker that shows the movement over the last 24 hours, and it was up something like 1.9 million%.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody over there was very unhappy. That's a tough thing to happen over Easter weekend. But I took a look at what they actually did, which was a little interesting. I don't know if I always like to look at everybody's UI and look at how it's built. And it appears they had some kind of just sort of custom DOM framework, something related to Backbone.js, and they moved it all over to React. So I don't know if they're planning on doing a React Native mobile app for GDAX in the future, what have you, but they did a pretty good job of switching the underlying code almost completely without making any visual changes, which is pretty nice.
So are they using that REST API as well?
I'm sure they are.
So that's industry norm then.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way you like to design it, if you can, this is the way I designed Bitmex, was that the API that we expose to customers for building trade bots or price utilities and so on is exactly the same API that the site uses. So you can kind of consider the Bitmex UI itself to just be one of many possible clients that could run on top of the Bitmex API, and that includes exposing endpoints like user verification, changing password, all that kind of stuff is actually available over the API. Of course, it's locked down and so on, but that way we're not, for instance, relying on security by obscurity. We have to design all of our API endpoints to be open to the web and designed right from the beginning. But that means that there's nothing that you can do within the website that you can't do via the API.
Cool. So Sam, what did you do before then? Before Bitmex? Before you joined up?
I've been a web developer for a while and a network engineer before that. I was working for the U.S. government as a contractor for a little while in Army equipping, and worked for kind of a string of startups.
Okay, so you had the drive then. Yeah, I was gonna say working for the government. There's real no innovation there, right?
Yeah, it was like real life Office Space, complete with 5 bosses and memos, and we had to pay for our own coffee. It was a terrible place.
I know all about it, man.
Yeah, Luffy, I hope I'm saying that right in the chat. We don't have a UDP feed. You might mean the WebSocket feed, and in that case, yeah, there's access control origin on that, the course header. You can still use the feed if you proxy it through a web server on your own machine, which is what we recommend doing. So it's not like it's unavailable to you, it's just security restricted through the browser, and that's completely intentional. If we didn't do that, there would be, we basically open ourselves up to ways that other websites could access your Bitmex data. Web security, by the way, for any of you who have been involved in the field, you know this, web security is a minefield. It is absolutely terrible, and we do everything we can to lock down every aspect of the site and the resources because there are just so many ways that can go wrong.
You know what, it's you guys have had your lag issues overall, like in like 6 months heavy use of Bitmex. It's been pretty good. I have to say, everything's held up with all the elements you have in play on the page and everything. It's been pretty rock solid. So, if you were a big partaker in developing that, that's hats off to you, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for a long time it was just the three of us for the first 2 years or so. Me and the engine engineer Ben and Arthur, and a whole lot of hours. But I think it's the best app I've ever built. I'm really proud of it.
I like supporting you, and at the end of the day, I don't have a problem donating bitcoins to your exchange.
Yeah, as for the lag issues, by the way, that's been an interesting experience. I mean, in a way, we were a victim of our own success on that. Not being able to process all the orders timely enough that are running through the exchange is kind of the kind of problem that you like to have, because it means you're doing something right. But since we had some slowdowns there, we've implemented an entire back-end workflow for running old historical data through new versions of the engine. So basically, every time anybody commits changes to the engine, we go through about 15 minutes of actual production data and see how quickly the engine can run through it. And with that data set and the breakdown of the flame graphs and everything that we're generating from that, we've gotten, I forget the exact number, but we got something like 8x out of it in the last couple of months, just based on that data alone. Because you can't fix what you're not measuring, is what I find. And once you measure it, it's amazing how quickly the improvements come.
So now you're equipped to deal with that kind of scale without lag. Is that what you're saying?
Right. And we have more things on the way there. We're planning on eventually announcing a downtime period within the next couple of months and doing a capacity migration on the engine. The engine is the only piece of our architecture we can't take down without downtime, for pretty obvious reasons. So we're working on exactly what the details of that will be. We're getting a new machine essentially optimized to be as speedy as possible, and then we're going to be doing practice runs on the migration, see how quickly we can do it, back and forth, announce that downtime, do the change. But it sucks to do, because for a while I was very proud of the uptime we had. Our last big streak, I think we were 380 straight days, and then I screwed that up, actually.
Well, to be fair, I mean, I was trading on that platform for 17 hours a day. I mean, minus order executions happening 2 to 3 seconds after. I mean, you guys have been up and working.
Yeah, it's been pretty stable. We've had fewer problems than I think you would expect for a system of this complexity.
Yep, absolutely.
Kronos, you mentioned in the chat about moving your trades via the large trading view graph, the chart rather. Trading view, to be honest, is one of these things that I really kind of want to exercise from the overall view. It's an extremely, it's extremely large dependency. It's actually something like 4 times larger than the entire rest of the site. And has a huge number of bugs. So we haven't made a whole lot of progress in terms of expanding out the functionality that it has, just because of those bugs and that size. We've been working on a collaboration with Coinigy, which is another Bitcoin startup in our area in Milwaukee that is working on a better stock chart for their own use.
Yeah, I thought you had been talking about a native one that was a few months ago. I remember you mentioned it, but it never came.
Right, yeah, that's still kind of an open thing. We've just been working on a lot of other features and projects, and because Trading View has always sort of worked well enough for our purposes, we haven't had the impetus to switch it out just yet.
So you mean Coinigy will be built in on your site?
Not Coinigy itself. Basically, the chart that they're working on. We're working on an agreement with them. Basically, I'm not exactly sure entirely what the structure of it will be. It's something we've talked about more or less ad hoc, but I'll be working on some of the code, and we might pay them. I don't know. Oh yeah, Cronus. They use TradingView right now. They're basically in the same situation we're at, where they're just running into TradingView bugs constantly, and the weight of it really slows down their page and loading of the site. So they're looking for an alternative. Because a lot of what they do is charting and information, they have a bit more motivation than we do. Lofi, in terms of mobile app, that's something, that I want to get out by the end of the year. I've started scaffolding out a React Native app. It's just, again, a question of bandwidth. I brought a new engineer on, looking probably to do 1 or 2 more by the end of the year, and get those things cranking. Probably the first thing we're going to do is a basic price sticker app, just to sort of test the waters. Yeah, Zed, I agree. When the experience works, it works really great. So it's difficult to give it up, because anything that you replace it with, if it's not as good, there's always going to be some user that used some particular aspect of it that they really loved, and if you take it away from them, they're going to be unhappy. So I'm acutely aware of that, which is a big part of why there really hasn't been any change on that for a while. Once you change anything, somebody always gets angry.
Well, Sam, thanks for coming on. It's been really good to hear all the shit you've been talking about.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I'm gonna be kind of off and on over the next couple of minutes, and then I might be out. But if you have any questions, ping me here on Teamspeak. I think if you poke me, I might get it within the next couple of minutes. Otherwise, yell at me on Telegram. By the way, for those of you guys in Telegram, I think some of you guys figured this out a couple of days ago, or maybe a couple hours ago. But if you say Bitmex in the whale pool chat, we see it.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna go and talk some price, because I got my. Want to have a talk about it, and I don't want to disturb anybody who wants to ask you about shit about Bitmex. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Good speaking to you.
Sam, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
The people who got margin called right now, do they get also reimbursed or not?
No, we're not planning on reimbursement for that.
Good. People need to learn.
Yeah, I regret that some people may have missed the announcement, but we made every effort to get the announcement out as quickly as we could. The system, again, worked as intended. Of course, we are just pressured by external factors that cause us to need to make decisions as quickly as possible. Chris, yeah, we had a notification in the app. It's just not everybody saw it. It doesn't always update immediately in the app, so not everybody would have gotten it. That's something I'm actually working on right now. No plans right now for an LTC monthly. We're just not seeing the liquidity that we would want on that to justify splitting. Basically, the more contracts you run, the thinner liquidity gets. Obviously, I'm not happy with the LTC 7-day liquidity at this point in time, so we don't want to risk that. If it grows, then there's a possibility there. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. I'm going to log off for a while. Again, you all, I'm sure, know how to reach me if you need to. Thanks for your time, and glad I could get to contact some of you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks
Okay,
for taking
same.